But I do fear that they may be weaponizing the release of tax returns with this action. And I have a lot of respect for Chairman Neal. But look, I could see the Republicans turning around and saying, well, hey, how about Sam Bankman-Fried? Wouldn't we all like to know what he paid in tax after what he just did? And I can see Republicans say, how about Hunter Biden and his business dealings? Shouldn't we be able to see that?
I want to talk about Donald Trump's taxes. Some would say, who gives a fuck? But there are reasons why we should be interested in this.
We have now been able to verify with the underlying documents that Donald Trump paid very little in taxes in some of the first years of his presidency. In fact, in 2016 and 2017, just $750 each of those years in federal income taxes. Then in 2018 and 2019, a bit more, nearly more than $1 million in federal income taxes, and then nothing in 2020, the last year of his presidency.
I find it interesting that Trump made $0 in so many years. In fact, most years, he lost tens of millions of dollars. I thought he was a business genius. What the hell happened?
And that he often used projecting losses forward as a way to reduce his tax bill. We also are learning that he got a large amount of interest from loans that he said he had given to his children. And at some points that interest may have been even more than what the market value at the time was. And that has raised some questions for the JCT.
The problem is, there's quite a few red flags. So often, the exact amount of money that he made just happens to be the exact amount of money that he lost. That's statistically astronomical. I think there's going to be quite a few investigations pouring over these things for quite a while to come.
In the Aerospace LLC, because remember these tax returns included some business entities, he claimed that he had made $42,965 in profit. Then on the same tax return in the same year claimed that he had in expenses $42,965.
He had bank accounts in multiple countries. He had them in England. He had them in St. Thomas. He even had them in China. $16 million out of China just seems to have disappeared. Wonder what happened there.
Trump is a very bad businessman. He loses money. He lost money from the casinos to the golf clubs with vodka and university and Trump stakes in between. He loses money. He pays no taxes, mainly because he loses money. He sometimes makes money, like when he's a reality TV show star. But for the most part, this is a man he's a poor businessman. He loses other people's money. He generates losses from that. He pays no taxes. Like a lot of American billionaires, he pays no taxes. We learned that the IRS did nothing really serious to question or challenge or even do the mandatory audits. So I think we don't necessarily see anything new, but I think it's the dog that's not barking, the taxes that are not paid, the IRS investigations that are not pursued. And it's characteristic, I think, of a tax system that's broken and an IRS that's not up to the task.
And the really sad thing about it is that so much of this crooked crap that he did was absolutely legal. Or at the very least, so convoluted with accounting that the IRS had no way to police it.
I mean, there are plenty of red flags, and we now know from the Manhattan DA investigation, they were able to get a criminal conviction of the Trump organization for tax fraud. That's pretty rare. It's hard to get a criminal conviction for tax fraud. So like his father, Fred, Trump consistently pushes against the line of propriety and often goes over it. There are many, many more things than the few details your reporter mentioned. Overvalued conservation easements, writing off personal expenses as business expenses, putting the kids on the payroll. Donald Trump himself was on Fred Trump's payroll. He was an executive in his father's company when he was 9 years old.
Like father, like son. I mean, hell, Donald Trump was on his daddy's taxes when he was 3 years old, making $160,000 a year. That was in the 50s. Man, he must have worked really hard while learning how to poop in the potty.
They clearly show that he took advantage of every lawful method of tax avoidance, including ones he lobbied Congress for in 1992, successfully lobbied them for, that were enormously beneficial to him. But they also show, at a minimum, 26 examples of where Donald crossed the line and engaged in what I believe can be prosecuted as criminal tax fraud. Donald in 1984 filed tax returns that showed a business with zero revenue and $600,000 of expenses. Both the city of New York and the state of New York, after trials Donald demanded, the judges held these were civil tax fraud. Well, that put him on notice. He can't do that. He did it 26 times over the 6 years. And that is powerful evidence of criminal intent. He knew you shouldn't do it. He did it anyway.
Yes, Donald Trump violated the norms and the traditions of releasing the tax returns. That's his right. Now, I don't agree with it, but that was his right. But I do fear that they may be weaponizing the release of tax returns with this action. And I have a lot of respect for Chairman Neal. But look, I could see the Republicans turning around and saying, well, hey, how about Sam Bankman-Fried? Wouldn't we all like to know what he paid in tax after what he just did? And I can see Republicans say, how about Hunter Biden and his business dealings? Shouldn't we be able to see that? What's the legislative purpose to all this? The point is, with Trump's tax returns, I mean, I don't know that by revealing this to the public the way they did, that we're learning anything that the authorities didn't already know. But I do have an issue. What was the legislative purpose of this? That's why the committee went to the IRS and they said, oh, this is all for a legislative purpose. I'm not sure I've seen that legislative purpose.
Now, some might say that there's no legitimate legislative purpose for releasing these taxes. Au contraire. Let's just break it down. It seems to me that this shows how billionaires are able to milk the American taxpayers. This shows how tax cuts and loopholes have neutered the IRS from collecting the taxes that are owed from people who can afford massive accounting firms to cover up their crookedness. And quite frankly, this gives a blueprint to our legislators of exactly how crooked our system has become and how failed our laws and regulations truly have been ever since Republicans started doing massive tax cuts and writing in loopholes, where you could take the losses from Corporation A and put them in Corporation B, and then Corporation C will actually have to pay the whatever. It's all just so convoluted, it's crooked. And yes, Trump's taxes may be legal, but there's a reason he wanted to keep them secret. Because billionaires don't want us to know how they don't pay their taxes. And now, the IRS, with 80,000 new IRS agents over the next 10 years, are freaking out Republicans. That's why George W. Bush reduced it to only 400 auditing agents. Did you know that? We had thousands before that. But George W. Bush made it 400. And guess what? Hardly anybody's been audited since. Except for poor people. Crazy that. Legislative purpose? Get to work, boys. I'm sure you can find some laws that need to be changed. I'm Zachariah, Lone Star Liberal. Y'all take it easy.